Hello, me again. I'm back. The thing is, I'm on this new plan, and I'm not allowed to drink any more water for another 10 minutes. So this is going to be quite difficult for me. And this time round, I don't know if you can hear it or anything, but I have put my Animal Crossing music as background music on here. If it gets monetized, I'm sorry. I don't do this for the money. I do this because I like doing it. Yeah. So yeah, let's continue where we left off on chapter 10. Sometimes, before I went to sleep, I'd see Auntie May. Not how she looked the last time on the floor, how she used to be, a big woman, wearing many colours. When she laughed, it was like lightning. When she shouted, it was like thunder. I heard her thundering now. "Wake up, Billy!" I woke with a jump. It wasn't Auntie May. It was the wire wall. It was shaking because some old guy was touching it. He was picking my roses. I roared my fury. "You!" I gripped the guy's fingers through the mesh so hard I almost broke them. He shrank back. "How dare you bang my roses, thief!" I didn't think that I was a thief too. I could see them in his hands, a big bunch of them. He almost passed out. "Sorry, sir. I thought this place was empty," I roared again. "Wrong!" Please don't hurt me." He was shaking. "They were a present for my daughter," I growled, but stopped twisting his fingers so hard. "What is her name?" Padma." "Does she love you?" Yes. She's a very good girl, sir. I only wish to please her." "Sure." I let my voice snarl with sarcasm. "Then in return for my roses, you can come here for tea." I had no idea what made me say that. "Sir, I cannot let my daughter do that," said Padma's father. "Oh, sorry. She can come here for tea." He was shaking all over, but very firm. For a young woman to be alone with a beast? "A male person," he said hurriedly. "It is not permitted. I will pay you for your roses. I will." "You have disrespected me. She must visit, but she can bring her friend." I showed him my teeth. The rest of my face was in shadow, from the trees and my hoodie, as they were probably all he could see. "I'll ask her." "You do that, and if she doesn't come, I know where you live." I didn't, of course, but it was likely he lived over his shop. I'd prowled past it late at night while scavenging. I'd seen this man before because he delivered newspapers very early in the morning. Not on foot, but in his car. I was glad of the papers when they were put out in the recycling bins. They were useful in many ways, from starting fires in the fire pit on cold days to toilet paper. I could read them, too, when I got bored. Mostly, though, I was too busy to be bored. Now that I would be getting a visit from Padma, I wanted to make the glass house look as good as it could. That meant throwing away tins and rubbish from my meals. It meant clearing up my mess. It meant cleaning up myself. I'd found 2 broken chairs and mended them. I found a wooden table underneath stacks of pots and cleaned that too. It looked really nice. My new plants were coming into bloom. I swept and washed down everything. I didn't want to live like a beast. I didn't want to look like a beast either. My hair was the worst thing. It hadn't been washed for months, and I knew it must smell like an old towel. There was an itch in my scalp that was driving me mad. I hoped it wasn't bugs. If you have locks like mine, you know what a business it is to get it clean. Hair that kinks, splits, and breaks needs so much oil that it seems easier to cut it all off. But my hair had always been in dreads. It wasn't a religious thing, but it felt like something that made me different from the gang. Auntie May had dreads too. She put wax on hers, but I had nothing, not even coconut oil. So I opened the big plastic jerry can of soap and got another surprise: peppermint. It didn't smell like any soap I've sniffed before. But maybe that was a good thing. I wondered whether Mr. Engels had made it himself. By now, I'd worked out that he must have done some smart things. The electricity, for instance. I was pretty sure that some of the panes of glass in the roof were solar panels, even though they were transparent. I'd heard of stuff like this, and people selling the energy they didn't need, and so maybe he'd set up a system which paid for other things, like water and council tax. Auntie May had always worried so much about those, and I knew that there would be no water if it wasn't paid for. Even so, I was nervous about using it, just like I was nervous of using the electricity. So far, I didn't seem to have upset whatever it was that looked after the glass house and me. I stood in a plastic tub and poured water over myself, then began to soap. I was cold at first, but then it was good. I squeezed my hair like a sponge, gently, and kept putting a little more of the soap on my scalp. Then I emptied the grey water and began rinsing. It felt so good. All the itchiness of my skin fell away. I thought, I am washing away the fear. I'm washing away the gang. I am washing away what happened to Auntie May. Even if I was still an ugly beast, my skin didn't hurt so much. Padma had said, I don't want some stinky old man. I wasn't old, and I was no longer stinky. The smell of mint from the soap was amazing. Maybe I could rig up a shower, I thought. Now, it was almost summer. I could wash every day. I didn't want to think about winter or whether I'd still be here then. I'd been living from minute to minute, then hour to hour. Only now I could think about the next day, too. About the new plants in my pots and the flowers opening in them. I wonder if I should buy biscuits or if fruit would be okay. Did girls have like milk in their tea? I hoped not. I didn't want to have to keep taking lunch money. I wished I had something to sell so I could be lawful and honest, but I had nothing. I knew that it was stupid to take money of kids. I also knew it was wrong. I have things in my head now, things Auntie May tried to teach me. She tried so hard. All the mums tried. They did all the work, long hours and 2 or 3 jobs, and got us to go to school and church, and tried to help us become good men. It wasn't their fault we turned out as we did. Sometimes I had bad dreams about being back. Those rows of tall buildings, everything grey, everything sad, the rubbish blowing about, the kids hanging around, scoring or stealing, the junkies, the dealers, the graffiti, the burning trash bins, no trees, everything broken. Then I'd wake up in the glass house and it was like I was in heaven. I'd see the green leaves and smell the flowers and hear the birds. Each week I'd sow more seeds. Outside I had tiny carrots and potatoes and lettuce. I felt as if I was helping the glass house just as it was helping me. I had stopped worrying. People left me alone. Nobody in the houses all around seemed to notice I was there, living in the middle of them. Now that I'd even cleaned it up, I felt it was mine. Only it wasn't, of course. Chapter 11. I waited and waited for Padma and her friend to stop by. They didn't. Not only that, but they no longer passed the glass house. Padma's dad must have warned her, or maybe stories about my mugging kids on the way to school had put them off. What could I do? I'd gone to all this effort and it hadn't worked. I got mad. I really wanted to see Padma, not to do anything or even say anything, just to look at her face. But if I wasn't too frightening her, I had to do something. Before I could lose my nerve, I slipped out and made the entrance and exit to the fence bigger, so I no longer had to crawl. You couldn't see that a part of the wire hooked back onto itself unless you looked very carefully. Right next to the brick wall. How I'd ever climbed that fence when I was wounded, I still couldn't understand. Maybe my mysterious helper had given me wings. I wished he was here now, because I was almost as scared of meeting Padma face to face, as if I'd been when I was on the run. If I could have put on a mask, I would have. I wanted to hide inside my hoodie as if it were a cave. Yet, if I did that, chances were she'd be even more freaked out. I had done everything to seem okay. I was smelling minty fresh, my teeth were clean, and my clothes were different from when I was mugging the kids. It was the middle of the afternoon, and kids were coming back from school. It felt strange to walk out into the tree-lined street in the sunlight, just like a normal person. If I were still young enough, I would be thinking about homework and a future, and not about every tiny thing just to survive. I could even have some mates instead of just the little brown bird that kept me company. The newsagent was open. The name B.V. Mulik was on the sign. I'd been into one before a long time ago. I knew it sold all kinds of stuff. Newspapers, oyster cards, chewing gum, lottery tickets, soft drinks. Not replica guns. Like back when I came from. The mums had demonstrated against ours with signs saying, "Take back our community, no guns." But nobody took any notice. There was the usual sign saying, "No prams or pushchairs, no more than 2 school children at once." They all said that. It almost made me feel at home again. I walked up to the woman behind the counter. She had an angry look on her face, not because she saw me, more like a permanent expression. But beside her, sitting on a high stool, was Padma. She was bent over a book. "Hello? Can I help you?" I'd like... Padma looked up, and I couldn't speak. It was like my bones had gone out of my body. She was wearing school clothes, but her mum was in a weird dress, like one long scarf. I remembered what it was called. So, a sari. She had a red dot on her forehead. It made her look like she'd come from another world. Padma, though, was more beautiful than the moon. I stared at her, and she stared back. "Yes," said her mum. She glared at me like I was a piece of trash. "It's okay, Amma. He just wants to buy a Galaxy bar and a lottery ticket." Padma turned to me. "Don't you?" I nodded. I still couldn't speak. "That'll be £3. It was all the money I had. I needed it to buy more tins of tuna, but I handed it over. In return, I got some chocolate and one of the tickets I'd seen Auntie May fill out every week. I'd never bought a lottery ticket before. "Thanks. I need your name and mobile number just in case you win." I knew I wouldn't win a thing. People like me never do. But right now, the only thing that mattered was being near Padma. I wrote William Grant. Then I stopped because I couldn't even remember my mobile, and it was out of battery, and I couldn't think of anything but her. Some school children came in, hustling and bustling. The mum was distracted, telling them off in a voice like a steel wire. Padma bent over me and murmured, "I don't really need your name and number for the ticket, you know." It seemed impossible she might like me, but I nodded. She smelled of the white flowers in the glass house. I'd found an old plastic label with a picture of them and the name Jasmine. "Can you speak, Will?" I like to call me that. Not Billy, not Beastie. Yeah, my voice sounded husky. "Sorry." My father said. She glanced at her mum, still busy with the kids. Then she said, in a low voice, "He said you wanted a visit in return for the roses." "I look after them, the roses. He was picking them, and I got mad. Will you come?" I knew it was stupid. She said, "Okay." I didn't let my jaw hang open with surprise. I just nodded and said, "Okay, tomorrow." "Sure." I turned to go, grinning all over. "Wait." My mum was watching us now. Padma said, "You've forgotten your lottery ticket." I came back. I reached over the heads of the kids to take it. One of them looked up into my face. It was the kid whose lunch money I took. The first one. Chapter 12. I wasn't as scared as I should have been. He was just a kid. What could he do to me? Yet seeing him in Padma's parents' shop made me see him as a person. He probably lived here forever. Padma and her mum would know him. All it took was a one word and my new life could be over. He was looking at a chocolate bar just as I'd looked at them when I was his age. Maybe the £2 I'd taken off him wasn't for his school lunch after all. Maybe it was for sweets. I didn't want the chocolate, so I held it out to him. "Here, don't you want it?" "Mate, sugar isn't good for you." I walked on, pleased I'd given him something he wanted. "Hey," it was the kid, running after me. He must have felt safer in the open, or the shops and people. "Wait!" I couldn't be running away from a kid half my size. I scrunched my lottery ticket into a ball in my pocket. "What?" "It's yours, isn't it?" "What is?" "You're the one who takes." I turned away. "One person. Do you understand what I'm saying?" "No, wait, my mum says." I turned on him suddenly. "What does she say?" "She says there has to be another side to you. She says, if you're hungry, there's food." I knew what he was going to say. I hated people like this, with their charities and shit, like I was a beggar or stupid. If he hadn't been in the middle of the street, I'd have hit him. "Piss off." He shrugged and ran back to his mates. Next time I found him, I wouldn't just take his money, I'd take his shoes, his pants, his house, his keys. I'd make him sorry he was born. Boiling with anger, I walked on. I'd seen Padma. I'd talked to her, but even this didn't make me feel okay. I forgot about looking over my shoulder. I forgot about looking in front. I forgot about being in danger. Pretty much from everyone. I was almost caught out, but I did glance in one of the shop windows. The shiny big windows that still amazed me just by being there. They were like mirrors, reflecting the street. I didn't want to see myself. I just looked, and there, behind me, were two figures I knew all too well. They wore the same clothes, the hoods with caps all over, the baggy jeans, the scarves, the trainers. I'd once dressed like that, only without the jewellery, trying to look normal. Here, it was weird. Nobody went around wrapped up in that way. They stood out. But all I needed to see was the walk, that rolling, bouncing walk, like they were sizing up who to bang next. Gaza and lips. Chapter 13. I ducked into a shop and watched them through the glass. They drifted past as I was sweating with fear in a way I hadn't for months. I peered at them through the stuff in the window, brooms and bins and doormats, and pretended to be interested in some mothballs. The shopkeeper was giving me the evils, like I was going to nick them, like I even had enough clothes to need mothballs. What were they doing here, in the north? Had they moved? They had to be either looking for me or on some job. whatever they were up to, no good. Most guys, they're drawn into the gang before they were 12. They start off having fist fights, then they get knives, then they get when they get knives, they get ideas. Because they're kids, they get work as ruined men, bringing drugs from the dealers. They look so small and innocent, they never get nicked, but the slightest thing gets them hotted up. They got no self-control and they're full of rage. They don't make enough money, they can turn on everyone and kill them. Auntie May said they were the children of parents who are children themselves. The gangs are their family. You've got to stay in the gang or you're on your own. And either way, you need protection. Sure, you get found with a gun, it's 5 years in prison. But it's that or no life. Often, they're the smart ones who, if they had a better chance, might be rappers, but some just get off on it. Guzzer and Lips, they were the last kind, the crazy, meaning kind that would shank you, even if you never met them in your life before. You look into their eyes, it's like looking at a black hole. No pity, no laughter, no anger even. Mostly they made their money killing drug dealers so as to take their cash. It was crazy, but I began to follow them. I wanted to see if they knew where I was hiding. They didn't look over their shoulders as I did, as they had never needed to, perhaps. As I followed them, I thought about Auntie May and how they'd killed her. They kicked in the door to her flat and gone for her in her kitchen. She'd been sitting down at the table, with glasses on, reading. I hoped for her sake it was her Bible. It was always out of order to kill mums. They were the ones you felt sorry for when someone had shot or shanked their son, or you'd said you did. They were the ones who tried to keep the community together, to keep kids in order, to make things better. They campaigned and complained and got their hearts broken. Some had been in girl gangs themselves before having a child changed the way they saw things. Once you have a child, it's like your heart leaves your body to live someplace else, my mum used to say. All you care about is the child, not your own self. Auntie May wasn't my mum, and she wasn't involved in anything other than her church, but it made no difference. I'd stayed out of the bang gang even though I'd dropped out of school. Those GCSEs, I'd done them, all 6 and with good grades. I'd been set to be one of the few kids to continue at the academy, only it was more and more hard. I had no money, and Auntie May needed my help. She'd looked after me when my mum died, so it was my turn to look after her when she got sick. That's why she was in the flat when Guzzer and Lips broke in. She didn't have anything to steal, except one thing. They took that just as I came in through the door. One look was all it took to see she was gone. One look, and I was out, running, then hiding for my life. I'd hated myself as soon as I was myself again, but for those hours, to my relief, Guzzer and Lips didn't go anywhere near the square with the glass house. They went on down the road towards the bus stop. Maybe they were just up for the day, like going on holiday. Maybe they had relations in another estate nearby. I didn't know or want to know. I hoped they'd stay away. Though in my heart I knew they'd be back. For now I was relieved. Not just for myself. I liked this new place. I didn't know most of the people, but I had looked in through their windows at night, and they seemed somehow kind. Some had jobs and some didn't. Some were in council flats and some weren't. Only they looked out for each other. The teacher and his wife, the old couple next door, the retired postman and his sons, the woman in the wheelchair, the single mum and her daughter, they all talked to each other. Nobody got into fist fights or arguments. They picked up rubbish. They recycled rubbish. They helped each other with heavy shopping. and took in posts for neighbours. They had cats and little dogs like cats. They planted flowers in their front gardens and even made raised beds round trees. They were ball games, but no dog crap in the street. No people shouting and banging guns. In fact, the only crime, as far as I could see, came from me. Me, and whoever kept breaking into the cars. I wonder if it could be Gaza and Lips. It seemed too low level even for them, but each time I heard the crash of glass and a car alarm going off, I huddled deeper into my blanket. In any case, as long as Padma was coming, it didn't matter. I didn't want to think about my old life and all those itchy, scratchy times. I wanted to live with the trees and big windows full of light and happiness. I wanted to live in a place where kids went to school and people had families and gardens. Every one of the green leaves in my little wood was her eyes. Chapter 14. So this is where you live? Yes, it's like a palace. Padma was staring all about her. I shuffled my feet, embarrassed but smiling. I'm glad you like it. I do. This place, the white cast iron, reminds me of India? No, well, maybe a little, but more of something that I once copied from a photo in a school once. A building called the Crystal Palace. A man called Paxton designed it. A Victorian? It was a guess. Yes, she looked pleased and a bit surprised, as if she expected me to have no education at all, only that was huge. I opened the door of the glass house for her, and she looked surprised. Thank you. You are polite. My auntie told me to always let a lady go first. Where is it? It burnt down. It was built for the Great Expedition over 150 years ago. I had no idea what she was talking about, but nodded like I did. I wish I had an iPhone so I could look these things up. I looked things up all the time when I could. School of Google. School of Wikipedia. That's me. But now I had no laptop and my mobile had died, and I had no charger for it. The only thing I had was the old Nokia. So, man of mystery, you live in a crystal palace. You have good manners. You like knowing things. Do you also look after these plants? They're amazing. I try to, I said. I was blushing. You must have green fingers. Do you grow these? I grew the new small ones, not the big old ones. They give me food. Oh wow, avocados. Padma picked up one of the black pears. You know, in some countries, that's all babies eat. They're so good for you. They're like nuts, full of protein. I didn't think avocados could be grown in Britain. I eat a lot of them, I said. I still felt shy, but it was easy talking to her. Do you want to try one? I don't want to take your food. No, do, it's okay. Padma thought they were delicious, the best she'd ever eaten. She says, I couldn't help being pleased. She said the big, smooth-skinned green fruit turning red was mango. She shared one of those. The small fruit with furry skin was a kiwi fruit. It had bright green flesh with a perfect ring of violet seeds inside. This is the best fruit I've ever had, she said. Even Indian fruit isn't as good. Do you miss India? I love it, but it's not my home, she answered. We talked and talked. I thought it would be difficult, never having talked much to a girl before, to anyone before, but it was easy. I told her about running away from home. I didn't say why, but when I said the name of the estate, she nodded. I've read about it in newspapers. You have? She smiled. You work in a newsagent. You read the papers. It sounds terrible. It's notorious. It's not all that. There are good people there too. Only, it's like a maze. Everybody gets lost in it. But you got away. If I hadn't, I'd be dead. I'd hoped she hadn't read about Auntie May's murder. The question is she really murdered? Because he walked away, remember? She could still be alive. Because he didn't check. So, just a thought. Or that I'd done it. I'd probably be a suspect if I ever turned up. I was trapped there with bad people. Believe me, I know what that feels like, she shivered. But you'd go on with your education at least. I wanted to know if the stinky old husband was still a possibility. I hope so, she looked sad. That's what I most want. And I better go. I told my mum I was studying with my friend. Angie? How do you know her name? I listen when you go by. You didn't see me, but I saw you. Padma laughed. We knew you were there. You did? Yes, I saw you first. I hope I didn't scare you. Why should you? Because I'm so ugly and you are so beautiful. I hadn't meant to say that, but it came out. She stared at me. Will, you aren't ugly. I thought she was joking. I wish I weren't. It's like something I'd have to live with. She looked at me with an odd expression. You aren't ugly. Some people look great on the outside, but are horrible on the inside. She wasn't being kind, or maybe she was being kind, or maybe blind. I wasn't always like this. It's like my curse. I think my auntie cursed me. I hadn't put it into words before, but when I thought of how she'd shrieked at me on the day she died, that was what it felt like. She'd shrieked because I went out without doing the washing up. She'd been half crazy with rage, but even so, Auntie May, with her beaded dreads, her necklaces, her floundering clothes, even the gang were afraid of her. Why would you think that? I did some bad things. Stole some money off her for food. She was angry, and then I wouldn't help her when I should have. Whatever you did or didn't do, Padma said, I'm sure you were a good person, a gentle person. You could not have made this garden bloom if you were bad. It was the nicest thing anyone had ever said to me. I think you are a good person too. I hope you come again, I said. Yes, I'd like that. Only, what? Why don't you sell some of your plants? The little ones in pots. I'm sure people would buy them. She looked at me, and I knew she knew about my taking money off school kids. I was so ashamed. It was like a burning wave going through me. She didn't say anything, but just knowing that she thought it was wrong made me decide right there I would stop. I would stop being a beast and try to become a person. Who would buy them? A lot of people. Like I said, you have green fingers. After she'd gone, I looked at my fingers. They didn't look green, just the same as always, but they were different. Chapter 15. The lumpy, bumpy skin on my hands was gone. I couldn't believe it. My nails were no longer torn and bleeding. My palms were not cracked. The back of my hands, which had once been almost as rough and stiff as gloves, was now smooth. Having my hands nice again made me want to cry. I'd never thought any bit of me might be nice to look at, but they were. What had brought this miracle about? Was it the minty soap? Maybe. But I thought I knew it was the glass house and its garden and the food I ate from it. These days, I hardly bought anything, apart from the tinned tuna and the porridge oats. I didn't need it. The garden gave me all the fruit and vegetables I could eat, and then some. Things that the seed packet said took 6 weeks took half that. I even started eating tomatoes, aubergines, courgettes, green beans, carrots. You put anything in that soil and it would grow. Even I was growing. Padma kept visiting. Maybe she liked getting away from school and home. Maybe she enjoyed talking to me a little bit. She talked about so many things. Sometimes it was grey and wet outside, but when she was there, it was as if the sun was shining. She knew everyone, like Ian and Katie opposite, because she'd lived there forever, and Ian taught her at her school, but we had to be secret. My parents think everything is dangerous. There's been a few burglaries around here, so everyone is a robber or a rapist. I love them, but they're so old-fashioned, it drives me mad. I knew I had nothing to fear from her. I had no money, no education, nothing but what the glass house gave me. I might be evicted at any moment. I didn't even have £2 to spend because of that stupid lottery ticket. Why don't you put some pots in the wheelbarrow and go out on Saturday to the high street to sell them? Padma asked. I wouldn't know what to ask. I was terrified of talking to anyone. I was even more terrified of being seen by Gazza and Lips, even if they didn't usually get up until late afternoon. Ask £1. Most people will buy something for that. Go next to the chemist's, that's a good spot. She was a shopkeeper's daughter after all. I did as she suggested. It wasn't easy getting the wheelbarrow out through the wire wall, and then my 30 little pots of plants, all in bud or starting to bloom. But I managed, and by 10 o'clock I was there. People hardly looked at me. They looked at my plants. At first I was nervous. I couldn't believe it when people stopped to buy, but they did. Even away from the glass house, my flowers seemed to gleam and glow with health. They were bushy and glossy, bright and colourful. The more people bought, the more other people wanted some. In 1 hour I made enough money to keep me for 2 weeks. They are lovely and so cheap. Do you grow them yourself? Yes, I do. Oh, I wanted that saliva. Was it the last one? I can bring more. That's salva. Yeah, not saliva, salva. I hope you'll be back next week. Yes, I will. One of the people who stopped was the kid whose lunch money I kept taking. He was with his mum. He didn't say anything to her, but when she got out her worn leather purse to buy 2 plants, I shook my head. No, I owe your son. She paused. Thank you. I'm glad you're turning over a new leaf. Was that what it was? When I walked back with my empty wheelbarrow, I was grinning. It was an amazing feeling to have earned money instead of stealing it. I should have known it wasn't that easy. Chapter 16. The next week I was back with even more plants. I took a rack of shelves on wheels to bits and bought out 100. All my pots seemed to be putting on an extra effort. I wondered why people who bought from me didn't sow their own seeds, but they all said they didn't have the time. Or maybe they didn't have the glass house. It was so full of flowers that the scent was almost too strong. When I opened the door, I felt drunk. A new plant had opened with flowers that hung like dreamy angel wings. They were the ones with the amazing smell. They made me think of Padma, but then everything did. It kept everything neat, clean, watered, fed. I loved it, and the plants loved me back. I was afraid of running out of seeds until I thought of keeping back 1 or 2 healthy plants to make more, but there were enough to last me all summer, if I was careful. Some plants even grew new plants out of the little bits of themselves. I read how to do this in the garden centre book. If I'd stayed on at school, I thought I'd have liked to study plants. My friend, the little bird, never had to look far for worms to feed his family. I could hear them cheeping away. Now they'd hatched out. I wish I could see them. Maybe when they grew up, I'd get to see them fly. But he came to see me often. I could talk to him, and he'd cheep back. He'd even sit on my finger to peck boiled rice. I liked the feeling, the tiny peck on my palm and the trust. All the time I was looking out for Padma, but she had exams. She told me when she next came by. I can't do anything until they are over, she said. I'm sorry, I miss seeing you. I miss coming here too. I didn't know whether it was me or the glass house that she missed. I hoped it was me. Is everything okay? I asked. I hope so. We were sitting deep in the thickest part of the garden. It was so quiet there was no sound but birds and trees. The trees all around were rustling, and the red roses tumbled over the wire wall, and the angel flowers were breathing from inside the glass house. We never touched, not once. However often I dreamed of burying my head into her soft skin, in her long shiny hair, or even just holding her hand. I knew it was forbidden. I would horrify her, and she was taking a big risk just visiting me, alone. Angie knows, she said. I had to tell her, so she could cover for me when I'm supposed to be studying with her. I'd be in such trouble if my parents found out. We weren't even allowed to do sleepovers at each other's houses when we were little girls. A little brown bird hopped over. Padma brought me one or two things like rice from home. It was easy for her, she said. Her mum didn't notice stuff like that going missing. She was too busy running everything and making her family scared of her. I didn't need much, but it was nice. I had over £100 in a tin box. I had never had so much money in my life. That's a pity, I said. There was such a gulf between my life and Padma's. But she wouldn't tell, would she? Will she? No. Ange was my back and I have hers, though I'm afraid. What is it? My parents had an arranged marriage. To them, it's normal. I don't want to disappoint them, but I'm not a thing. No, you can never be that. To them, what matters is money. Encased. Not whether there is any deep feeling or friendship. She explained to me about chaste. How if you were Hindu, you were born into a level of society, scholar, warrior, merchant, or untouchable, and could never leave it or marry anyone else who wasn't from the same chaste. If you did, your family would never see you or your kids again. The worst, the lowest of all, were the untouchables. They did all the worst jobs, like street cleaning and rubbish, and they had the darkest skin. I was shocked. So it's like racism. Not exactly. I don't believe it anyway. I love many things in my culture, but not that. Would I be a merchant? Now I'm selling plants. No, you aren't Hindu. I knew, from the way she said this, that I would never be accepted, but it was no good, knowing this. It had grown up inside me, like one of the seeds, and I'd never even noticed it until it was too late. Chapter 17. As the summer came, I tried very hard not to think about Padma, and it should have been easy. Every moment of every day was about studying. She wasn't going to waste any time she had left. If I were at school, I'd probably be doing the same. I listened to the radio, and I sometimes read the newspaper I picked up from the recycling bins at night. Ian and Katie were best for these. They were a crazy mixture, some full of serious stuff, and some all headlines like "Wall over Euro Million Search" or "Kim's Bum Implants Shock." I knew that this wasn't the same as an education, but the more I read, the more I hoped that I could buy a laptop with the money I had hidden away. I needed to find out so much. Ian's wife had stopped work. She was too pregnant to do much but water her garden, which meant she was often out in front. "Hi there," she said when she saw me. I had to say hi back. "I was wondering whether you do gardening work as well," she said. "I need some branches cutting in the back." "As long as you pay me, of course. Say 20 quid for a couple hours." I would have done it for half that. I hadn't been into someone else's home for a very long time. Her flat wasn't fancy. It was no bigger than any on my estate. In fact, quite a bit smaller. It had books on the walls, so many I couldn't believe anyone read that much. Messy, but clean. Old furniture, a big sofa covered in a blanket, an armchair, a brown wooden table with 4 chairs, a lamp, a bedroom with a big bed overlooking the garden, a little bathroom and a kitchen, all on the ground floor. Flimsy locks, no hinge bolts, no London bars across the lock, no security glass on the windows. You should get bars on the windows, you know, and a gate across the passage. Ian says that too, but we've got nothing to steal, and I don't want to live in a prison. I shook my head, worried for her. Everybody's got something. Not us. I saw the TV and the laptop on the table. About 3 years old, but still. There was an iPhone charger, so they must have an iPhone. Those weren't nothing. What did she think got nicked? Gold bars? A radio was on in the kitchen. She listened to the same channel that the one in the glass house was stuck on. I could hear familiar voices murmuring quietly in the background about ancient Greece. I like that program, I said. You can learn so much from it. I do, too. I could see she wanted to ask why I wasn't at school if I liked finding stuff out. She could see I wasn't 18, but was too polite. Katie not only paid me, she gave me a drink of homemade lemonade and a big sandwich when I finished. I learned she was American. She worked on a political magazine, which is why she had so many newspapers delivered. Her boyfriend was away in the country for a couple of days, she said, helping his grandma. She was trying to tidy up before the baby came. I asked if she knew Padma, just to have the pleasure of saying her name to someone. She did. Such a bright, lovely girl. Ian has taught her. I said nothing. I was afraid she might know about Padma's visits and tell her dad. I wish I could go back to school, I said suddenly. What's stopping you? I don't think I could. I'm not from here and I don't have the money. Lots of teenagers drop out from school for a bit, then come back. Maybe you could talk to Ian. If you'd like. I shook my head. No, thank you. People like me were not helped. Everyone can be helped if they ask for it, Katie said. I nodded, though I didn't believe her. She was so smart, but she knew nothing of the world I came from. I felt even more sad. When I'd first come here, it had been enough to get well and find food to eat. Now I wanted impossible things. I wanted to get educated, to be worthy of Padma, to have a real home. Even if I sowed 100 plants a week, more than I could grow, I couldn't do it. And if I tried to, I was afraid the police would come for me, but the police came anyway. Chapter 18. My little brown bird had a hungry family. I often heard the chicks cheeping like, "Mum, I'm starving, Mum, I'm bored." Then my friend would pop out of the bush and fly down to pick up something to bring back. He had a worried look on his face, just like a dad. Okay, he seemed to be saying. It made me laugh. Whoever said I was, you didn't have to speak bird to know that kids are all the same. I found a bit of paper in my pocket and flipped it over to him, just in case his kids liked to play football. That was what some dads did with their kids. I knew. And if I'd never been a soldier, even if I'd never known my own father, Mum told me he'd been a soldier. I couldn't remember my dad, but I remember her telling me that. It made me proud, though maybe it was just a story to make me feel better about him not being there. She was white and he was black, and maybe that was even harder than Padma and me. The bird